Close your eyes. You're rich. Disgustingly, embarrassingly, cartoonishly rich. The kind of rich where you don't own a car, you own the parking garage. The kind of rich where your morning coffee was flown in from a volcanic slope in Guatemala by a man whose only job is flying coffee to people like you. The kind of rich where you've genuinely forgotten what a price tag looks like because you stopped reading them sometime around 2019. Now open your eyes. Here's what nobody tells you about that fantasy. Here's the part the wealth coaches and the vision boards and the manifest your abundance crowd always skip. Wealth across every single era of human history has come packaged with something dark. Not just inconvenience, not just, oh, it comes with responsibility. No, actual, specific, visceral horror that money could not cure, that status could not deflect, that no amount of gold or silk or algorithmic optimization could untangle. The names changed. The horrors didn't. We're going back, all the way back. And you're coming with me because you're not watching this from the outside. You are the wealthy protagonist in every single stop on this tour. You are the one in the linen robes in the penthouse suite. You are the one with the servants and the stocks. You are the one who, in every era, should have had everything and kept running directly into the one thing money couldn't fix. Let's start at the very beginning. The original flex. You are standing in Egypt. The year is roughly 1800 BC. You don't just live here, you own here. You are a high noble in the court of a pharaoh, which means you have a sprawling estate with white limestone walls, a household staff of 40 people, more grain storage than a small village, and the kind of proximity to divine power that could make a lesser man's knees buckle. You are, by every measurable standard available to your civilization, at the absolute top of the food chain. Your morning starts well. Servants have pressed your linen. Actual fine linen, which is, genuinely, the most sophisticated textile this world has yet produced. Your breakfast involves real bread, real beer, figs, dried fish, and if the season is right, roasted waterfowl. People 2 miles away are eating ground paste and hoping for a good harvest. You are eating waterfowl. Civilization has peaked. Now, the Nile. It rained upriver. Nobody knew that was going to be a problem. The flooding this season is slightly wrong. Not catastrophically wrong, just enough to create standing water in the lower fields for longer than expected, which means mosquitoes, which means malaria, which means that you, wealthy noblemen, with your fine linen and your waterfowl and your 40 servants, are lying on your reed mat burning at 104 degrees with an infected spleen, being treated by a physician who is also half a priest, and whose treatment involves reciting spells at your liver. Here's what no one tells you about ancient Egyptian wealth. There is no medicine? Not really. There are herbs and prayers and a document called the Aber's Papyrus that has some genuinely correct observations about the human body buried between instructions to rub crocodile fat on your forehead. Your wealth got you to the best available care. The best available care is a man murmuring at your kidneys. But the mosquito isn't even the worst part. The worst part is the pharaoh. Because in Egypt, the divine king doesn't just govern, he radiates. Everything around him reflects his divine will. If the crops fail, someone close to him failed. If the flood was wrong, an advisor misread the signs. If a noble's estate underperformed its tribute this season, that noble better have a very good explanation, delivered kneeling, while maintaining eye contact with the floor and absolutely none with the God King himself. You know what wealthy Romans will later call career risk? In Egypt, it's called being buried alive in an administrative error. You are standing in the antechamber of the palace, waiting to explain your tribute shortfall. Your palms are wet, your linen, impeccably pressed this morning by 2 dedicated servants, is now slightly damp at the back. A man to your left was a senior official 3 weeks ago. You don't mention that. The flooding, you start. The scribe looks up from his papyrus. He does not blink. The flooding, you say again, was irregular. The northern field. Was the flooding irregular, the scribe says, or was your management of the northern field irregular? There's a long pause in the antechamber. A very long pause. The kind of pause that determines whether your descendants remember you as a cautionary tale or don't remember you at all. This is what Egyptian wealth looked like from the inside. incredible access to resources, zero insulation from the absolute unpredictable authority above you. Every Egyptian noble was essentially a very comfortable employee of a company with no HR department and an execution policy that could be activated by a bad mood. But let's move forward. Let's upgrade. Rome, 100 AD. You have upgraded significantly. You are a Roman senator with a domus in the Palatine Hill neighborhood, which is the ancient world's equivalent of a penthouse overlooking Central Park, except with more marble and less ambient noise and considerably more political backstabbing. Your house has rooms, multiple rooms, a garden courtyard with a fountain, actual running water through lead pipes, which will turn out to have been a slow-motion catastrophe, but no one knows that yet. Your morning is genuinely impressive. You wake up to the sounds of the city warming up. Rome in 100 AD is about 1 million people crammed into a space designed for fewer, which means the noise starts at dawn and doesn't stop. Your household staff helps you dress in your toga, which is the world's most prestigious garment and also roughly as practical as wearing a damp bedsheet to a business meeting. The toga is 6 meters of wool wrapped around your body in a specific way that took you years to master and requires assistants to put on every single morning. It is a garment that announces your status and punishes you for having it simultaneously. You eat well. Rome, in its imperial height, has access to food networks spanning 3 continents. Garum, fermented fish sauce from Spain, olive oil from North Africa, wine from the south, bread made by your own kitchen slaves from fine wheat, actual fresh water from the aqueduct, which is a genuine miracle that most of the world won't replicate for another 1,000 years. Then you go to the toilet. There's no other way to say this. The communal toilet, the latrina, is a long marble bench with holes cut in it, positioned over a channel of water in a room shared with however many other people arrived at the same time. There are no stalls. You make eye contact with a business associate. He nods. You nod. This is how Rome works. The wealthy man's latrina is nicer than the public one in the Forum, but it is still communal, still social, still a morning ritual conducted in the company of people whose names you know and whose legal cases you are currently adjudicating. This, historians will note, is technically an advance on ancient Egypt. But the toilet is not the point. The dinner party is the point. You have been invited to a convivium at the house of a senator whose name I will not say because 2 of the other guests have also been invited and they're watching each other and everyone at the table knows it. The reclining. The food. 14 courses across 4 hours. Someone brings in live flamingos and then, shortly after, flamingo. Do you know how hard it is to catch a flamingo? Someone paid to answer that question. You're eating the answer right now. Here's the thing about Roman dinner parties. They are not dinner. They are competitive performance. They are a room full of extremely powerful people watching each other for signs of weakness, disloyalty, ambition, nervousness. The food is a prop. Your host isn't feeding you. He's auditioning everyone's reactions to the cost of what he's serving. There is a man across from you who smiled slightly too quickly when the second wine arrived. You file this away. He files away the fact that you filed it away. In Rome, if you are close enough to power to be truly wealthy, you are close enough to power to be destroyed by it. The emperor last year had 17 senators executed. The one before that had 12. The current emperor is considered restrained. This is a compliment. It is not entirely reassuring. The grain measure from the eastern provinces, your host says, mid-meal, seems to have come in short again. Everyone at the table stops moving for a fraction of a second. That fraction is long enough for everyone to have noticed. That noticing will be discussed, analyzed, and reported somewhere before dawn. Roman wealth was real. Roman wealth was extraordinary. Roman wealth also meant living inside a social performance that never, ever stopped, where the stakes of every interaction included outcomes your linen toga couldn't protect you from. Upgrade and downgrade, always both. England, 1250. You are the lord of a castle in the Midlands. Let's take a moment to actually absorb what that means before your brain romanticizes it. You have a castle, stone walls, a great hall, hundreds of acres. You command labor from the village below you. In the hierarchy of medieval England, You are near the top of everything that counts. Your morning begins cold, not slightly chilly. Cold. The castle in winter is a stone box, and stone, as it turns out, does not retain heat. Your fire went down sometime in the night. There is no central heating. There is no insulation. Your bedchamber, which you share with at least one companion and possibly a dog, is slightly warmer than the hallway, and the hallway is the temperature of ambition, the kind that gets you out of bed despite everything screaming at you to stay. You are dressed by a servant in layers of wool. Everything is wool. Your sheets are wool. Your undergarments are wool. Your everything is wool, and wool in medieval England, unwashed, in a body that does not have access to daily bathing facilities, has a particular texture and particular aroma that no amount of dried flowers strewn across the floor can entirely counteract. The Great Hall at breakfast is smoky. The central hearth in a medieval great hall, the big fire, the warm center of your social world, fills the space with heat and also with smoke that has to escape through a hole in the roof that is, in practice, only approximately efficient. Your eyes have adapted. Visitors notice. You no longer do. You eat. Bread, salt pork, dried beans, maybe an egg. In summer, considerably better. In February, this is what your wealth procures from your stores. Your villagers eat approximately the same thing and call it their lot in life. You eat it and call it lordship. But here is the era-defining horror, and it arrives on a Tuesday without warning. The neighboring lord has a grievance. Not a new grievance. Grievances in medieval England are essentially inherited, like land, but less useful. He claims a section of your eastern boundary is technically his. You disagree. In 2025, this would be a lawsuit. In 1250, this is a siege. He camps his men on your eastern hill. You close your gates. The village below you retreats inside. You are now in a siege, and you are the richest man in a sealed stone box that is slowly running through its food stores while someone outside is thinking about what to do with a catapult. The Eastern Garrison, your steward says, 3 weeks in, delivering the report with the particular facial expression of someone about to ruin your afternoon. Tell me, you say, already knowing it's bad. They've launched. He pauses, choosing words. Organic material, over the walls. Define organic material. From their camp, my lord. The material that accumulates. You hold up a hand. You understand. They are catapulting medieval biological warfare into your fortress, and your wealth, your noble status, your title, your hundreds of acres cannot change the physics of what is now landing in your courtyard. Your physician, who is also partly a theologian, recommends prayer. Your castle survives. The siege eventually breaks because sieges are expensive and boring, and the aggressor runs out of patience before you run out of food. But you have spent 6 weeks in a sealed stone box that smells like everything you'd expect a sealed stone box to smell like after 6 weeks, surrounded by people whose feudal obligation to you has not made any of this more pleasant. You sign a peace. You go back to your cold bedchamber. A dog is on the bed. You do not remove the dog. The dog is warm. New York, 1895. Now we're talking. You have money the likes of which no previous era in this tour has approached. Industrial capitalism has concentrated wealth so efficiently that you, a robber baron's son-in-law with positions in railroads and steel, and a brand new investment in this exciting thing called electricity, are operating with a net worth that would make a Roman senator's eyes cross. Your Fifth Avenue mansion has 32 rooms, running hot water, gas lighting transitioning to electric lighting, a staff of 18 people who have specific, delineated roles and are not expected to do each other's jobs. You are finally in an era where the material problems of wealth are largely solved. Food is extraordinary and available year-round thanks to the railroad networks your family partially owns. Medicine has discovered germ theory. You are no longer being treated by someone reciting spells at your liver. There are actual doctors who understand that illness has causes rather than spiritual dimensions. And those doctors will come to your house, and they will wash their hands before they touch you. And this feels like a miracle because, relative to 1250, it genuinely is. The morning begins in bed, properly. Not a wool situation, Egyptian cotton. A real breakfast, eggs, cured meats, toast, butter, coffee from Brazil, orange juice in a glass. Your wife is dressed by her personal maid in approximately 45 minutes, which is fast because the society calendar today requires her to attend 3 separate social engagements, and each one demands a different outfit, and each outfit has a different set of structural undergarments and a different hat. The hat is not optional. Nothing is optional. Here is the era-specific horror. You are extraordinarily wealthy in a city that has become extraordinarily obsessed with classifying exactly what kind of wealthy you are. Old money looks at new money the way a tenured professor looks at someone who learned everything from YouTube. The 400, Mrs. Astor's list of the only New York families who actually matter, is the social architecture of your entire existence, and being on it or off it is the difference between being treated as a person or being treated as an interesting phenomenon. You are on it. Barely. Your wife's family connection got you there. Maintaining your position requires attending the right dinners, wearing the right things, contributing to the right charities, and being seen at the right summer resort, which is Newport, obviously. And if you're in Saratoga instead, then you're already a little suspect. July, Newport, 94 degrees. You are at a lawn party at someone's cottage. The Gilded Age term for a 40-room oceanfront mansion is cottage, delivered without irony. You are wearing a 3-piece wool suit, because that is what is worn. You are standing on a lawn in 94 degrees in a wool suit, talking to a man you slightly distrust about railroads you're both invested in, while your wife, in her third outfit of the day, is operating a parallel conversation 12 feet away that is equally tense and equally encoded. I heard the Vanderbilt cousins were in Lenox this season, says the man. Were they, you say? They were, he says. Interesting choice. There is a pause. In this pause, everything that matters about 1895 wealth is happening. Indeed, you say. You are sweating magnificently into your wool vest. The beads of perspiration are not visible, which is a mercy because visible perspiration at a Newport lawn party in 1895 carries social implications you cannot afford. You are a man with a railroad fortune, standing on a manicured lawn by the Atlantic Ocean, sweating through 4 layers of fabric, performing precision social navigation that one wrong word could derail. The money is real. The discomfort is real. The wool is real. The social terror is real. And here's the part that breaks everything. None of this is that different from the Roman dinner party. The currency of anxiety has barely changed across 18 centuries. Only the fabric is different, and the fabric is the wrong choice. New York, 2025. We are home. You made it. You have an apartment on a high floor of a building that doesn't have a publicly listed address because the first rule of modern ultra-wealth is that visible wealth is a liability. Your building has a private entrance. Your car, one of 3, is registered to an LLC. Your name is not on the Forbes list because being on the Forbes list means your kidnapping risk profile just changed, and your security consultant sent you a very detailed memo about that last year. Your morning begins at 5:47 a.m. because your sleep optimization app determined that your chronotype peaks in cognitive function at 6:15, and you need 28 minutes of morning preparation before peak function is accessible, because you have read the book and listened to the podcast and hired the consultant who confirmed the book's findings apply specifically to you. You drink something green. It arrived last week in a refrigerated shipment from a facility in Colorado that processes it at specific temperatures to preserve enzymatic activity. It contains adaptogens, nootropics, something derived from a fungus that clinical studies at one university have shown preliminary positive results for, and a mineral complex that your functional medicine doctor, not your regular doctor, your other doctor, recommended after reviewing your quarterly blood panel, which costs more than most people's monthly rent, and is not covered by any insurance because you pay cash for everything medical because insurance companies keep records, and records are searchable. The green drink tastes like ambition and lawn clippings. You have 73 unread messages before 6 a.m. 11 are from your assistant, 3 are from your family office. 1 is from a journalist who has your private email address, and you are now wondering which of your people leaked it. Your phone, the one for regular communication, has notifications off. Your second phone, for family, is on. Your third phone, the one your security team monitors, has been silent for 4 days, which means either everything is fine or something significant is being prepared. You sit down to what your nutritionist has designated as a cognitive priming breakfast. Specific macros, specific timing relative to your morning workout, which happened at 6:15 in the private gym on the lower floor, supervised twice a week by a trainer who flies in from Los Angeles specifically for you. Here's your modern horror, and it's quieter than a catapult but more constant than a siege. You are invisible and fully exposed simultaneously. Every transaction you make, every communication, every medical record, every flight plan, is a piece of data somewhere being aggregated by something. You have an entire team, lawyers, consultants, cybersecurity people, managing your digital footprint with the same intensity that your medieval counterpart steward managed the grain stores. And like the grain stores, it is never fully secure. Something always leaks. A journalist, a former employee, a counterparty in a deal who decided the story was worth more than the relationship. The Substack dropped this morning, your communications person says on the phone. She means someone published something about you. She means you now have about 4 hours before it reaches the kind of audience that requires a response strategy. What's the framing, you ask? Wealth hoarding angle, she says. The New Zealand property. There it is. The New Zealand property. A functional compound with its own water supply and generator and staff, which you purchased during a period of global anxiety as a rational risk management decision, is now being written about as a doomsday bunker for billionaires fleeing the consequences of their own economic choices, which is, you have to admit, a sentence with a certain rhetorical momentum. You have a 7-figure security apparatus. You have a legal team that bills by the 6-minute increment. You have access to the best available medical care, the best available nutrition science, the best available everything. You also have a Substack with your New Zealand compound in the headline, and the comment section is a thing you will not be reading directly, but your communications team will, and they will summarize it for you. And that summary will land in your inbox sometime around 3 p.m. And you will read it in an elevator between meetings. And for approximately 45 seconds, you will experience something that feels remarkably like what a Roman senator felt at a dinner party when someone smiled too quickly at the wrong moment. The specific details are different. The architecture of the anxiety is identical. And here it is. The thing I promised. The thing that makes all 5 stops on this tour cohere into something more than a list of historical complaints. Across 4,000 years of documented human civilization, wealth has solved the material problems of each era with remarkable consistency. You didn't die of a preventable infection. You didn't go hungry in a bad harvest. You had space, comfort, access, options. Wealth worked. It kept working. Every era on this tour, money did what money advertised. But there was one thing it never fixed. Not in Egypt, not in Rome, not in a frozen castle or a Newport lawn or a New York penthouse with a private entrance. It never fixed the problem of other people deciding what you are. In Egypt, the pharaoh decided. In Rome, the emperor and the dinner party decided. In medieval England, the neighboring lord with a grievance decided. In the Gilded Age, Mrs. Astor's list decided. In 2025, a Substack and a comment section and a former employee with a Signal app decide. The specifics upgraded every 400 years. The fundamental condition that your status, your safety, your social reality are ultimately determined by forces outside your control that never moved an inch. Wealth insulated you from the weather and from starvation and from the worst mechanical indignities of poverty. It could not insulate you from the judgment of the world you were wealthy inside. Every era of this tour gave you one thing better and 5 things worse. And the one thing that stayed the same, that no era ever cracked, that no fortune ever fully purchased, was the silence of other people's opinions. 4,000 years. 47 centuries of optimization. We built aqueducts and antibiotics and algorithmic sleep tracking, and we still haven't solved the thing that the Egyptian nobleman was lying awake about in his fine linen, sweating his way through a fever, waiting to kneel before the pharaoh tomorrow morning. What do they think of me? Still the most expensive question in human history. Still, in every era, completely unanswerable. Civilization has peaked. No, it hasn't.